How do we differentiate though between like what's okay, what's normal stress, and then like what's, I don't know the term, clinical stress or something that could cause a heart attack?
I I think at this stage of the game, we're so used to running at these high levels with
Yeah.
our cell phones, with our that unfortunately it gets to, and even the mentality of doing. When we meet someone, one of the first questions is, "What do you do?" When it should really be, "Who are you?" Right?
Yeah.
And so, if you find yourself forgetting a lot of things because you think your memory's bad, but you're just not present long enough to remember where you put something down.
I do
Uh,
that all the time.
right? Things
Yeah.
are falling off your plate. There's not enough time in the day to do stuff.
Right. But it's funny
There
you say that
is.
because I think like I'm a very good juggler. I could do 5 things at once. Also, if I don't have things to juggle, I don't like it. I don't know what goes on with me, but I can't sit in like a quiet space. I'm not a meditator. I'm not a yoga person because I feel like I'll get Tourette's syndrome and start yelling because that's just like not my jam. But like I'm really good at driving somewhere and saying, okay, no problem, because I can get 4 things done as I'm driving. It's a wonder I haven't been in a car accident, because you're doing so many things and on the phone and talking and, you know, it's, you're right. I'm not present enough. And I've thought to myself, oh my God, I wonder if I'm getting early signs of dementia or something because I'll be like, did I have that conversation? Did I take that, vitamin that I was supposed to? And I really
Yeah.
can't remember. And it is because I'm all over the place and I hate it.
Well,
I do hate it.
we value the busy. I'll tell you an aha moment I had. I was in my garage and I caught myself putting on my seatbelt, opening the garage, putting on my sunglasses, and hitting reverse all at the same exact time. And I could feel the chaos of it. And I was like, what did you just say? 30 seconds? Like, what was that about?
Right.
And
I'm the
so I
same
find
way.
that I just feel better in my body when I'm just doing things. And I found that, like, I admittedly, I like to be doing things, but I've learned to do things like, make a necklace or do a painting or read a
Right.
book, doing things that allow my body to calm down while my mind is still. Those are forms of meditation,
Oh,
in my
interesting.
opinion.
I need to
God,
have them on a to-do list to feel like I'm doing it and crossing it off. But you're right. It is a nice feeling when you can sit and be still in the moment with something that you're focusing on one thing.
yeah, and that's what meditation really is the
Yeah.
ability to get out of the noise of your brain and focus in on something that brings you peace in the moment. And I speak to so many clients of like, what are you going to do this afternoon? Well, I'm going to do this, this, and that. I mean, what would you like to do? I'd really love to sit and read a book, but I feel guilty.
Mm.
Why? At the end of the day, is that grocery trip or dry cleaning trip going to make your life any richer? Or is reading a book and going on adventures or just creating in your own special way? If you look at the form of the word recreation,
Mhm.
it means recreate. We need time to recreate ourselves every day to fill those tanks back up so that when we really do have to go, it's easy. We're not falling into bed at night and going, I can't believe my life. I'm so tired. That's
Right.
not ideal.
So I want to talk about anxiety and managing your stress. I mean, because obviously a lot of people have anxiety. Everybody manages it in a different way. Like you said, from drinking or doing drugs. Some people, go on hikes. Some people do meditate. So what are some ways that are the best way to handle anxiety that you can really see tangible results?
Um, Gosh, there are just so many. I think what I want people to learn about anxiety is that it it's just one part of your brain that's
Mm.
doing that, and it's usually anticipating and worrying about things that are nowhere in the room with you. And
Mm.
I think we've really misused the term mindfulness, uh, and we don't know what that really means. We really, really don't. And I know for me, whether you're drinking or running, jogging, what's happening is you're not escaping, you're being in the moment. When
Mm.
a person's drunk, they're like, "Oh, this music is great. I love you, man." They're not thinking about their problems. When you go to Hawaii, your senses take over, and you don't care about your taxes in Hawaii. You're just you can feel, you can smell, you can touch. And so that's really your first steps out of anxiety is using come to your senses, literally
Mhm.
using your senses to be present in the moment, and shut up that brain that wants to be really your enemy. It's about making your brain your friend.
What are your thoughts on getting to the root of why you're anxious? Because I know a lot of people medicate. I'm not even talking with drugs and alcohol. I'm talking about actual anxiety medicine, and they live with this, But I don't know that they're ever addressing the root cause, which will just, make them be on these drugs forever, and they'll continue to have the symptoms of anxiety. So, how important is getting to the root of the problem?
It's so important. First of all those anxiety drugs just make anxiety worse. You get rebound anxiety, they're benzodiazepines, and they create a need for themselves.
Mm.
And really, what your the root of getting out of the anxiety is, I feel like your anxiety is screaming at you to ground you and bring you to what you want. So there's all these steps in my book to help you find what's draining your battery that you don't want draining your battery.
Hmm.
What boundaries are you not setting? Who are you hanging out with that you don't want to be hanging out with? What is it in your life that you're doing because you have to, rather than what you should?
Right.
Rather than what you want, rather. And I
Yeah.
feel that a lot of us put a lot on ourselves that nobody else really cares about, but we think they care about it.
Right. Right. For me, something that I found is that it's so important to like clean house. You mentioned like be around the right people, but sometimes that can cause anxiety too, because to sort of break up with a friend or a boyfriend or have to admit that something, a relationship is toxic or you're not getting anything from it. It's really hard to cut that person out of your life, and it almost becomes a dramatic thing to do it. And I found that sometimes that can cause anxiety, even just trying to cut the anxiety out of my life.
Absolutely. It goes back to what you were saying earlier, which was so important, is that social anxiety that begins in school. And why aren't
Mhm.
they teaching us how to have healthy interpersonal relationships from a young age instead of people pleasing and berating?
Mm.
Um, and I agree, cutting those people out of your life can feel very hard, but how long is that hard going to last as opposed to 20 more years with
Yeah.
this person? And so worried about the harm we're going to cause someone else, and we neglect ourselves in the process.
Yeah.
So my idea in the book is learning your own user manual, knowing when a car light goes off in your body, you know what that means. Is this a big deal? Is it a little deal? And learning how to navigate relationships in a healthy way. And we, like you said, grown women, grown men, we don't know how to do that.
Mhm.
And so I think by learning yourself is the best way to teach your kids.
Right.
And I hope that that idea of the whole body, again, another word that's really misunderstood is holistic. If
Right.
your dog is stressed out, you don't say, "What triggered you, Fluffy?" You calm your animal down, right?
Yeah.
So when we're like anxious, we need to know how to calm ourselves down first.
Mm. Wow, that's really interesting. So what are some suggestions? Because my next thing I wanted to talk to you about was panic attacks. So those are so confusing to me because first of all, they're physical. I've had panic attacks before, and I don't know that they're a panic attack. I think I'm sick. I think, I don't really know what's happening. I've woken up before where I was completely dizzy. To this day, I'm not sure that it was a panic attack, but my doctor said that's what it was. And I was like, but what am I anxious about that I'm waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning? I can't think of why that would happen to me. So how realistic is that, that something like that is a panic attack? And why does that come out of nowhere if we're not even thinking of the thing that we're anxious about?
Well, a lot of people wake up anxious, and what they don't teach us is that the last couple of hours of sleep, we're processing our stressors. And
Mm,
some of us remember our dreams, some of us don't. But a lot of yogis or meditators, they'll get up at 4 or 5 in the morning to avoid that cycle of sleep. I personally think it must be an important part of our processing. So, I'll get a full night's sleep. But when I wake up with those feelings of anxiety, I have to tell myself, you were just processing something. You're okay right now. Maybe just go outside, take a deep breath, have a cup of tea. Sounds so corny to say, but starting off your day with a gratitude list, you can roll your eyes, but when you actually think about things that you're really happy for, you start releasing those dopamine and serotonin neurotransmitters in your body,
mm.
and they combat that anxiety, adrenaline stuff you just woke up with. A lot
Uh,
of my patients
no, no, go ahead. I was
on
going to ask
panic
you more.
attacks, the classic panic attack is this feeling like you're gonna pass out, like
Mm,
you have to run out of a room and get somewhere. What I tell people is, make sure you're laying down or sitting down, because the worst thing that's gonna happen with a panic attack is you're gonna faint. And when you faint, you're going to wake up completely restarted, your body is fine. But you wanna be someplace where you're laying down. And most people who've had panic attacks have had them so many times,
mm,
and understanding it's going to pass. It's
right.
going to be okay. If we as women didn't know what our periods were and we just bled every month and hated people, we would think we were dying.
Right.
Every month, you would literally think you're dying. But I think it's so important to understand your anxiety, because then
Mm,
you know your period, oh, it's the gift of life. And when you understand your anxiety, it doesn't have to be so scary.
right.